Yes, quite so. Today we are talking about the worship guitarist. Who are they? Where did they come from? And how much longer must we work with them? Yes, you've all experienced working with a worship guitarist, whether their playing has inspired you to worship God even more, or their playing has reminded you of the good old days when the worship team consisted of an organist and the pastor's wife. Anyway, lots of ground to cover. Let's get started with worship guitarist number 1, who was born before the war. Which war, you might be asking? Well, I'm not sure, but to play it safe, I'm going to say all of them. Worship guitarist number 1 has been a faithful member of your worship team ever since the church building was built in the early 1900s. However, worship guitarist number 1 is well known for his intense dislike of modern worship music, stating that it all began to go downhill the moment that young lady wrote the song Shout to the Lord. Worship guitarist number 1 also has an intense knowledge of music theory. However, if you have rostered worship guitarist number 1 on your worship team for the weekend, you can guarantee that every song in that set will have a shuffle feel to it. Other attributes commonly associated with worship guitarist number 1 is that they often remind the drummer to play softer, and that they fall asleep during the slower songs. Righto, moving along. Worship guitarist number 2 first picked up a guitar in the 1980s. Unfortunately, our second worship guitarist failed to transition from the 80s to any subsequent decades, and so now for 30 years has been playing with a chorus pedal at the beginning of their effects chain and another one at the end. If you have worship guitarist number 2 rostered for your weekend service, you can guarantee that they will play non-stop from the moment your first song begins all the way to the end of your last song and possibly beyond. But that's impossible. What if they don't know the chords? You might be asking. Well, don't let such a minor issue like that deter you. Worship guitarist number 2 will simply fill those 4 to 5 minutes of worship with hundreds of tasty licks that will blow your hair away. Other attributes commonly associated with worship guitarist number 2 are that they are known to swing their strumming arm like a helicopter blade, and that they occasionally wear their hair in a mullet. Oh, the memories! Moving on to worship guitarist number 3, who only picked up a guitar about 6 months ago. And this is because worship guitarist number 3 was only born in the early 21st century. If you've ever worked with worship guitarist number 3, you will have recognized their unquenchable desire to question your every decision. Whether that be the songs in your worship set, the order of those songs, the size of the font on the lyric screen, the color of the carpet, the stage layout. Well, let's just put it this way. Worship guitarist number 3 is quite disagreeable. Of course, you remember that time when you as the worship pastor encouraged your creative team to explore their talents and to grow in their musical ability, to which worship guitarist number 3 promptly informed you that for them to learn music theory would ruin their creativity. Worship guitarist number 3 is known to learn the worship songs for a Sunday service on the Sunday during the worship service. This is partly because worship guitarist number 3 has often overslept on a Sunday and fails to make the pre-service rehearsal. As a worship pastor, you have confronted them, and when you've done so, they've let you know that they prefer to learn the worship song in a worship environment because in this way, the song will be in its rawest, truest form, and that way they can truly make the song their own. And this makes sense if you think about it. Why would you want to spend hours learning from the industry's best who have spent years crafting their talent when what your congregation really wants is to sing a version of the song that you came up with that morning? Other attributes commonly found in worship guitarist number 3 are that they love it when the camera comes up close to film them and believe that the more rings they wear on their right hand, the better they will play. Boy, mate, will you close the bleeding door? You know, being the best musician at church isn't all it's cracked up to be. The pressure to perform is huge. I've got my congregation looking at me saying, please lead us in worship, and I dare not make a mistake. Well, that's not really a problem for me. I find that I have to turn the talent down so I don't make the guys on stage look so bad. Anyway, enough about me. This is about the glory of God, and I've got to say, God is being glorified big time just because of how good I am at giving him glory.